The conversation, sir, on the report of the Auditor General, I believe, is an important one. It concerns me because, having come from a Democratic Labour Party administration that was, I believe, and I have to be very careful about the nomenclature that I use, but having come from a Democratic Labour Party administration from which the Auditor General's report and dedicated reports on SOEs did point to misappropriation, did point to cases where the interests of the people of this country were secondary at best to whatever was propelling the actions of those individuals. Having come from that place, sir, and the member for Christchurch East Central will attest, that when we came to service in 2018 as ministers in finance, economic affairs, and investment, the state of information, of financial reporting, the things that were allowed to obtain were appalling. Having come from that position, having had to, sometimes it felt almost physically, I don't like when people don't use the word literally properly, but it felt almost as if you were literally taking a bucket and a mop, a broom and a shovel to clean up the mess, just to be able to see clearly the state of the finances at that time. It was a challenge. And I don't think that my hardest exam at university, my most challenging project as an economist, ever prepared me for what we faced. Coming to service to find the state of financial reporting the way that it was found. And immediately, we said, this can go no further. And set up systems, even before we brought the legislation with respect to the Financial Management Act, set up systems to be able to say that by the 5th day of every month, we needed to have a report on the financials for the previous month. Being able to say we needed to understand what was happening with numbers across several institutions, because you cannot plan for what you're going to do if you don't know what you have. And so, sir, some of these observations that are made in the Auditor General's report point to not malfeasance, not misappropriation, not a government that set targets and didn't meet them, but point to systems that still leave room to be improved. And I repeat myself, because I think we need to be able to show the difference. So I read this report 3 times. And I read it alongside some of the financial information that it references. And you know why, sir? Because before I stand in any public forum and say that the challenges that we face are more about how we treat to and report data than about anything else, I wanted to be sure. Because as has been said in the public domain, and as is true, this is a government that came to service on a platform of transparency and accountability. And this is a government that can stand by that platform of transparency and accountability. And the way that we will do it is to take every single claim or assertion that is made by the Auditor General in this report and to respond to it one by one by one by one. It must be done. And so I do not believe, and I think that we have to take the trust of the Barbadian people, we have to cradle it in our arms, sir, because it was lost by the last administration. And we brought the people of Barbados to a point where we demonstrated, you see, that's the thing. You can know something in your heart and in your soul, but if you don't demonstrate it, nobody else is going to know. And so we asked for the trust of the Barbadian people. We earned it. We demonstrated, I believe, in those 4 years from 2018 to 2022, that we were able to get the economy back on a path that the Barbadian people and the world could trust again. But it's not just about the economy. It's not just about the macro. We also demonstrated, through measures like the one before us here today, that we would not preside over a plan for growth that did not put people at the center. And that is what this measure is about. But I will tell you what is worrying me, sir. And it is that we can't just know for ourselves that we are doing right by the people of Barbados. We have to show. And if we allow a report that, to be frank, is simply reporting in the main on poor systems, on the fact that certain reports were not made in time, on the fact that IT systems have gaps, need to be strengthened. When I review this is what I see. And so this government must, one by one, claim by claim, assertion by assertion, come to the people of Barbados and say, this is what obtained in this circumstance. This is the reform that we are implementing to address this. And this is the timeline by which we believe that you will see an improvement. That is the conversation that we have to have. The question of the convening of the Public Accounts Committee, and the reason that I do not now go into any details, sir, on the contents of the Auditor General's report, is that I take very seriously my role as a member of the Public Accounts Committee. I take it very seriously. And I would not wish to prejudice any of those conversations that we are yet to have about this report or any other report, because I think that we have to maintain the integrity of that committee. I also happen to think that the person who presides over such a committee should be an elected member. The notion that someone who was not elected by any Barbadian person should preside over a critical process of accountability is one that does not sit well with me. I have high expectations, sir, of the constitutional reform process because I believe in the will of the people. I believe in the democratic process. And I believe that when Barbadians choose a person to represent them, they are tasking that person with the important business of making sure that their interests are protected. That is what the Public Accounts Committee is about. And I think it is easy to come and play with the will of people. It is easy to come and grandstand for political profile when no one has elected you, when no one has sent you to represent them. Because those of us who ask people to trust us, who ask people in Bannisterland and Flagstaff and Clapham and Carrington Village and Thorpes and Haynesville to trust us, we take that very seriously. That is why I take my role in the Public Accounts Committee very seriously, sir. Because every time I receive evidence, I hear evidence from someone, I am thinking about the people who are paying taxes in this country every day, the people who are depending on the services of government, who may not receive them in a timely way or receive them at all, if we do not manage the people's resources properly. So I take that very seriously. And I believe that we have to make a demarcation between the functions of governance that must be executed by elected individuals and the others that perhaps need not. But that may be a conversation for another day. That being said, I believe that we have to move with expediency, sir, to settle the business of the Public Accounts Committee, to say how it will be constituted, given that we find ourselves in a position of having no leader of the opposition, and getting on with the business of reviewing the report. But beyond that, I am challenging us, the government, to once and for all address the assertions, because the narrative that is out there that has already left these shores, that has already left this region, and that has already left this hemisphere is that an absence of response to a report of this nature suggests something other than what we know is the truth. And so I firmly believe, and I also believe that the process for considering this report also has to be reformed. I am advised that ministries and departments and agencies must respond. But I believe that apart from the individual responses from those ministries and agencies that might feel unfaired by some of the assertions of the report, and so might hurriedly come to correct them, that we need to have a consolidated, constructive response to a report that really points out some issues with systems of governance and data. And that fails, in my estimation, to point out any wrongdoing. To the extent that it does, that it might theoretically is the purview of the Public Accounts Committee. But what, sir, bothers me, and this is in keeping with the contribution of the member for St. James Central, what bothers me, as someone who sat on this front bench for just under 4 years, is that a government that has done as much as this government has done, including reforms such as this, to clean up the shoddy work and the poor economic management of the last government, a government that has done as much as this one has done to bring Barbadian people into this circle of empowerment, a government that has done as much as this one has done to show the world that Barbados is a place and a jurisdiction that they can trust, cannot afford to be silent on a report that only looks at administrative gaps in a system. This government has done too much to leave that much unsaid. And so, while I throw my wholehearted support behind these amendments, while I agree that we seem to be in a mood in the country where people in an absence of facts and an absence of information, are creating all kinds of storylines. In an environment like that, one must, as the senior economic advisor did this morning in response to the unfortunate comments about the issue of printing money, I can only say that I had different economics lecturers, sir. So I don't have to. You need not worry that I reflect the level of capacity of the ones who are speaking. But in an environment such as that, this government has to speak. I feel confident that this government will speak comprehensively. And I feel confident that when it does, that there will be calm, that there will be certainty about what we can expect in future reports. There will be certainty about the reforms that will come to make sure that these gaps do not continue. And that there will be certainty, sir, as well about the role of the Auditor General and what that office also owes to the public of Barbados in the way of putting all facts on the table. And with those words, sir, I'm obliged to you.